I'll be right back.
Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. Shall we wait for Mr. Pierce to return, or shall we begin?
I think you can start.
Okay. This evening we're going to review the proposed 2013 Fire Department budget with a total as presented at the manager's level of $3,295,347, representing a 7.18% increase over the 2012 budget. Primarily, the increase in this budget is related to the wage effect of collective bargaining agreements. The adjustments that I have made to the budget total 0.45%, just under 0.5%. And I'm going to go through and highlight some lines here in the budget just to provide some further explanation, and then also just to open a little discussion about what some of the fire department needs are and how we had approached that. Beginning, I believe the pages should be numbered the same, page 73, 74. Fire Department Administration regular wages have increased 3.48%. That represents collective bargaining wage increases for the position of Deputy Fire Chief and Secretary.
Can I just slow you down for a second, Chris?
Sure.
You said 73, 74. I'm seeing it on 71 and 70.
Off by one, 2 pages. Right.
Okay, so it is 71, 72.
Yeah, my pages might be a little numbered different. I've just got a different print.
Yep, I understand. Okay.
So it would be the line section 4220.1.110 under administration. Holiday pay also increased. That was a result of wage increases due to collective bargaining. You can see that the rest of the lines in administration are zero change. And that's right through, continued on the next page, printing supplies, gasoline, essentially all those lines are at zero change.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to take questions as we go along, or you want to wait till he finishes?
Why don't we let him make his... what does the board want to do?
I would prefer the questions be held to the end, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
That's okay. I just didn't know which way we're going to go. Okay, thank you.
The next section is fire suppression, regular wages. We do not have any part-time positions. That was a line when we used to have call firefighters. Fire department overtime wages, callback, sick leave coverage, and vacation wage coverage. Each of those lines increased approximately the same amount, about 7%, and that was the wage effect of collective bargaining agreements. I would like to note that within the sections of overtime wages, sick leave wages, and vacation wages, those primarily are used for replacement of members that are on leave. Presently, for the first 3 months of the year, because we don't have sufficient funds within those coverage accounts, we actually run short-staffed. Now, I've been tracking the types of leave and the usage of the leave and the cost of that leave, and have estimated approximately an amount necessary to move us back to our full staffing levels at 8 members on duty for the entire period of the year, and that number is about $20,000 to $25,000. However, it's not been asked for in this budget. When we were at the manager's level and having the discussion, we saw that the effect of the collective bargaining agreements changed these lines about 7%. And collectively, we decided that it probably wasn't the right time to ask for more money in these particular lines because of the percent change and the perception that it's involving overtime.
Chris, would you mind if I make a comment of clarification at this point?
Sure.
Chris is throwing out percentages such as 7% or whatever. I'd just like to point out that those are actually 2-year increases, not 1-year increase. Essentially call it 3.5% per year.
Right.
Simply because the comparison 2012, okay, the CBAs were not in the 2012 operating budget because they were not approved until March of 2012. So it is 7%. That's mathematically accurate, but it's really closer to the impact of 3.5% per year.
Correct. Yes, thank you. And I actually was going to make that point when we get to the end, because the budget 2012 does not reflect the cost increases of the collective bargaining agreements. Then you see all of them in the 2013. As we turn to the next page, we'll see fire suppression continued, and those lines were all at zero change. We move to the next page, fire suppression continued. It begins with technical hazard expense. Then there's new equipment, equipment other, and replacement equipment. There are some changes here, primarily due to equipment needs for operations. Under technical hazard expenses, a 28% change really only represents $5,000. And what is covered under that line are expenses related to the cost of hazardous materials response. All the communities within the Seacoast participate in a regional hazardous materials response team, and we all contribute basically an assessment relative to the size community, the level of risk that we're exposed to, and so on. We do maintain some of our own equipment, so our own meters, our own monitoring equipment, the costs of maintaining those are included there. We do maintain 2 trailers with some equipment. We do have to keep the databases in those meters updated. Because technical hazard includes some other responses such as marine, costs associated with our marine unit, and that would be supplies, not necessarily the engine maintenance or the boat maintenance itself. Those are covered under vehicle maintenance. There is no money budgeted under new equipment. Under equipment other, again, this line primarily would be related to preventive maintenance of equipment that we already have, not the addition or replacement of equipment. And that covers costs such as service of our hydraulic rescue tools, the jaws of life tools, testing of our breathing apparatus, chainsaw maintenance, fire extinguisher maintenance, air compressor maintenance, and such. Replacement equipment provides replacement of equipment that we either have had for several years that is either worn and needs to be replaced, such as our hydraulic rescue tools. There you'll see there's a line there to place a cutter in the 2013 budget. And we've asked for the replacement there because the set that we purchased last was about 15 years ago. And with the changes in vehicle technologies today, the materials that they're now using to reinforce for impact resistance are so hard that the older tools cannot actually cut through these new materials. We've also asked for some software to maintain things like material safety data sheets in the community because businesses are required to report to us storage and use of hazardous materials. Presently, most of our records are on paper, and down in our dispatch center, we have volumes and volumes of books, printed versions that need to be updated, and we're looking to get rid of the paper and go to electronic versions of these. We're also looking to replace one of our, actually, we took them out of service. I asked to have them declared a surplus so that we could get rid of them. Some old hazardous materials, gas meters, and there's the cost to replace one of those in that line. Moving on to the next page, we have fire prevention. The regular wage increase was related to the wage effect of collective bargaining. When you look at the part-time wage line, you see that it's a significant change. It's an 82% change from 2012. The smaller portion of that was related to the collective bargaining agreement, but the part-time position presently works 20 hours. The former secretary in fire prevention left us, and there was a short period of time of about 8 weeks that the position was vacant. We filled the position. The vacancy allowed us to increase the number of hours for that position for the rest of the year